Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Superman Truth. Really, we're going to continue our coverage over the preludes that lead into the last crossover done for Superman in the New 52, Savage Dawn. Now remember, when it came to the Superman Truth era, it was broken up into 3 separate arcs, where you had Superman Truth, the preludes to Savage Dawn, and then finally Savage Dawn. Now, when it comes to Superman Truth, you have to remember 2 things. 1, his identity was told to the entire world, so the entire world knows that Clark Kent is Superman. But on top of that, Superman is mostly depowered. Now, the reason why his identity is out in the world right now because of Lois Lane, but the reason why he's been mostly depowered because he gained a new ability known as the solar flare. Now, when it came to the solar flare, he was able to release a huge amount of energy, but usually he was able to recharge and be his old self after recharging for a certain period of time. The problem was though, after the last time doing a solar flare, he was unable to recharge, and so he's mostly depowered. He has some powers, but not all of his Superman powers. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Superman Truth, you had all 4 different Superman titles to this one overarching storyline that led into Savage Dawn, which was Superman, Action Comics, Superman and Wonder Woman, and Batman and Superman. Now, today we're going to cover Superman and Wonder Woman. Now, when it comes to this certain book right here, it does pick up where our last video covering these 2 heroes left off at. Now, remember, out of nowhere, a lot of people close to Clark Kent were just getting kidnapped left and right, and he had no idea why. And he found out that it was thanks to the government of America and partially because of Argus as well. And the reason why, because they got very upset with him lying about the idea that he was Clark Kent, that he had a secret identity, and they felt like he had other things that he was lying about the idea of trying to take over the world. Now, at the end of that storyline, he was able to get everybody back, but he was upset with Diana, his girlfriend, Wonder Woman. And the reason why, because right after Clark tried to figure out what happened to his close friends and family, well, Steve Trevor called up Diana to tell her, hey, you can find all his friends over there if you want to. And so she went out of her way to actually go save those people who were close to Clark Kent. The problem was though, she did not tell Clark Kent at all about finding out where they're being held at. But on top of that, when he arrived, he found her, saved their lives, but also using the lasso of truth on them. Now, the reason why she was doing that, because still, the government had doubts that these people were helping Clark Kent to try to take over the world. And so what Diana did was she used the lasso of truth in front of the people who were interrogating the friends of Clark Kent to prove that they're innocent people. They're not trying to help Clark take over the world. Now, Clark got very upset about the idea that, 1, Diana knew where all his friends and family being held at, but at the same time, he hates the idea that they were forced to use the lasso of truth on his friends and family as a way to prove that they were innocent people. And so at the end of our last story with these 2 characters, he told Diana, I'm very upset with you and I can no longer trust you, like I no longer trust Lois Lane. And so finally getting into today's storyline, we do pick up with Superman currently arriving at the Watchtower. Now remember, the Watchtower was the current base for the Justice League in the New 52. Either way, when he does arrive, there is a lot of blood, but he just keeps pushing forward. Now he is confronted by the Flash. And when it comes to the Flash, you have the Flash wondering what in the world is Clark Kent up to? Because 1, there's blood everywhere, and 2, Clark just randomly appeared. Now, this is Clark trying to regain his lost powers without the help of anybody. And so it's Flash wondering, what is Clark about to do when it comes to being on the Watchtower? And so with this story taking place literally right after the ending of our last video for Superman and Wonder Woman, when we do pick up with Lois Lane, Lana Lang, Steel, and also Diana, they're trying to figure out how in the world are they going to help out Clark Kent, and what is Clark going to do next? Now, here's the thing. Lana Lang hates Lois Lane right now. And the reason why, because it was Lois Lane who told the entire world that Clark Kent was Superman. Now, the reason why she did that is because Clark Kent was fighting against a new bad guy known as Hordor, who was going to use his secret identity as a way to blackmail Clark Kent. And so Lois thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and tell the entire world that Clark Kent was Superman so that he could no longer be blackmailed. Well, that led into a huge wave of problems for Clark to deal with. And so for Lana, she looks at Lois as a problem. As a matter of fact, she punches the heck out of Lois Lane. And honestly, she deserved it. And so Lana saying, no, you may not help out at all because technically it's your fault that Clark is in this mess right now. Like, you may believe in some kind of weird way that you were helping him, but in reality you were hurting him. Now, when it comes to Diana, she does not plan at all to work with Lois nor Lana or even Steele to figure out how to help out Clark Kent. And so she just disappears and heads over to the Watchtower. Now, when she does arrive to the Watchtower, she does see a lot of blood in different places of the Watchtower, and that begins to freak her out. But when she walks around the place, she is able to find the Flash, who has been knocked out. And so she does wake him up. And you have both our heroes realize what Clark is about to do. That Clark just recently took a spaceship, and his main goal right now is to drive that spaceship right into the sun, hoping that it will recharge his actual cells, and then once again he'll be Superman, the original or his old self Superman, with all his powers returned. And so right now it's Diana wondering if he can survive that actual trip, because right now apparently nothing else had worked. And so if nothing else had worked, how does he know this is going to work? It's her saying that he believes he may regain his abilities, but in reality, he may get burned alive and just die. And so once you have Diana and Flash both realize what Clark is trying to do, you then have Diana take another spaceship as a way to follow Clark to hopefully stop Clark from flying into the sun. Now, here's the thing though, because when it comes to Clark, he's saying, listen, I want you to go ahead and go back over to the Watchtower, because if this does work, it'll be great for me. If it doesn't, I'll die, but at least you'll be able to live on. Except this is Diana. She's madly in love with Superman, because remember, in the New 52, these two characters dated each other. And so right now it's her saying, no, we are a couple. I'm here for you until the end. And so no, I'm not going to let you die on your own. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to save you. Now, she is able to teleport over to his spaceship, grab him, but right when she does, he tells her, Diana, I don't think I love you anymore. And then they teleport back over to the Watchtower. Now, once they do arrive back at the Watchtower, you then have Clark explain why he said he no longer loves Diana, because she lied, because she did not tell him where his friends and family were being kept at. Now, here's the thing though, because even though she did technically lie, it was just one lie. Now, it was a huge lie, but apparently this one lie was just enough for Clark to say, I can no longer trust you, I no longer love you, just like that. Like literally in a matter of really hours to say. Either way, you didn't have Clark say, you know what? We have other things to focus on. And so until we are able to handle those problems, I don't want to focus on us at all. And she agrees as well. But for Diana, it's hard for her to believe in the idea that this man no longer loves her because of one mistake. And so it's Diana hoping that maybe he'll just realize that what he said was a mistake, that he really does still love her and still wants to be with her. But again, they have other problems to deal with at the moment right now. And so this is where the book reminds us what happened in our last video. And what I mean by that is, in our last video, we found out that when it came to the loved ones of Clark Kent, when they were being kidnapped by the government, they were being held in a prison, a special kind of prison made for, well, super villains. The thing was, when Clark and Diana were trying to get them out of there was a prison break. You have 3 random energy creatures appear and begin to attack the place to break take out other energy type supervillains out of that place, and they all got away. And so this is Barry, Diana, and also Clark trying to figure out where they all went to. There had to be some part in their plan to meet up somewhere, or at least break up into small groups. And so unfortunately, our heroes have no way of finding them until you have Clark say, you know what? I do know one person who could help me find these other creatures. And so we do see Superman and Wonder Woman attack this random helicopter. I say random, but in reality, it's not random, because on this helicopter, they're looking for a certain kind of prisoner. It's because right now, this prisoner could be the key of helping Superman and Wonder Woman figure out where all those other energy creatures went to. And so we do see our two heroes just wreck through this entire helicopter. And once they do that, we kind of find out they're here to get Parasite. Now, when it comes to Parasite, he was actually the 5th Parasite in DC Comics, but he was the one they used the most in the new 52. Either way, when it comes to Parasite, it's Clark saying, hey, I need your help. Now, this is where we get the chance to actually see Superman and Wonder Woman be kind of dark. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to Parasite, he's wondering why in the world did two heroes just break him out of his transport on the way over to prison. And so you have Clark and Diana tell him the reason why, because we are going to need your help and you are going to help us. And matter of fact, they beat the living you know what out of him to say, yeah, you are going to help us, because if you don't, we're going to continue to beat the living you know what out of you. Now, luckily for Parasite, there is a deal here. And what I mean by that is, if he does say yes, which honestly he has no choice here, at least he'll be able to get something out of this deal, which is that once they're able to locate the other energy beings, Parasite will be able to absorb their energy so that he'll be, somewhat fed. Because again, when it comes to Parasite, he has a somewhat endless hunger for energy. And so when it comes to Clark, he's saying, listen, if you help us out, I can give you a huge amount of energy to feed off of. That's your part of the deal, or what you can get out of this deal. And so you have Parasite say, yes, I'll help you guys out. Now, the thing is, though, right now, when it comes to Parasite, he has been completely drained, which honestly does make sense because he was a prisoner. They made sure to not give him any kind of energy so that he'll be able to break out of prison. And so what he tells Clark and Diana, I need some energy right now if I'm going to be able to actually find your missing prisoners. And so what he does, he begins to absorb energy from Diana. Now, the reason why he's doing this, because he fought Superman. He felt the energy of Superman. He now wants to feed the energy of a demigod, which is Diana. And so he's all like, hey, go ahead and give me your energy. And well, she does give him her energy. And once he's able to get enough energy, he says, listen, I should be able now to figure out where they have ran off to. He puts his hands in the ground and being able to figure out where they all went to. By using the Earth's magnetic field, he's all like, okay, I have a location, just follow me and we can finally end all of this hot mess and I never have to see you guys ever again. Now, that is when we jump over to a character known as Mr. Bend. Now, when it comes to Mr. Bend, we saw him in our last video where he was technically head of security when it came to protecting the president. Now, in our last video, he actually released a parasite because he believed that Clark Kent was going to hurt the president. Now, in reality, the two characters were just talking about the idea of Clark's identity being out there to the entire world. Either way, once Clark was able to handle Parasite back then, the president fired Mr. Bend. Now, at the end of our video, we found out that Mr. Bend is actually working alongside with Vandal Savage. Now, in this storyline right here, we're coming to find out that Vandal Savage is actually his father. And apparently the two of them, plus other characters we have seen in other books, have been working together on some master plan. The problem is, though, when it comes to Mr. Ben, he does not have any kind of patience at all. And so technically right now, he wants to rush the plans of his father, which we have no idea what it is yet, but apparently he wants to rush Vandal Savage's plan. Now, when it comes to Vandal Savage, he says, no, you must have patience. And that right there really bothers Mr. Ben, because he feels like when it comes to his father still looks at him as a child, not a man. And so to Mr. Ben, he said, you know what? It's time for me to take matters into my own hands. And so he plans on killing off his own father, Vandal Savage, to prove that he's not a little boy, that he's actually a man, a grown man that is able to pull off master plans by himself. But getting back over to Diana, Clark, and Parasite, we do see our three characters currently right now following Parasite into Kentucky. Now, the reason why they're in Kentucky is because in this actual area, the base where all the energy beings are hiding at is somewhere in this area. And so you do have our three heroes try to find the actual entrance into this place. Now, they do have to take out a couple guards, but once they're able to take out those guards, they're able to find their way into the actual base. Now, here comes the problem though, because as soon as they're able to get inside the base and get into the main room of the base, they find all the different energy-based characters all right now just standing in this one particular room. Now, of course, it does look like they're all being mind controlled, but on top of that, you have our hero see Firestorm right now being hooked to some kind of machine. Now, that is when you have Mr. Ben appear on some huge TV screen to say what he is trying to do. Well, really, he does not tell us just yet what he is trying to do. Instead, he does tell Diana, Clark, and Parasite that they're way over their head if they believe they're going to stop him, because what he is trying to do is something big and huge. And apparently our heroes cannot understand his master plan. Either way, when it comes to Mr. Ben, he does have full control of all these different characters that were broken out of prisons recently, all these energy-based characters. Now, Firestorm is the only one who's right now hooked up to a machine for a different kind of reason. Either way, you have Mr. Ben tell all the creatures or characters under his control to get rid of Superman, Wonder Woman, and also Parasite. And so it does lead into a few pages of our heroes working together to fight against an army of energy-based characters. Now, Parasite is helping out only because these energy-based characters, he can feed off them to feed his hunger for energy. And so honestly, he's kind of helping out, but at the same time, he's only helping out for his own self. So either way, he's a good guy for right now. But as the fight goes on, you then have something else pop out of nowhere to grab Diana. And that is when we see some huge machine grab her and pull her inside. And we're left to wonder what in the world is going on with this huge machine. And this leads into the actual ending of the book. And what I mean by that is we jump into the final chapter and we kind of find out that Diana was grabbed by some kind of power suit. Now, when it comes to the power suit, well, it's technically draining her energy. And so it seems like when it comes to Mr. Ben, his main goal is to just drain everybody's energy left and right. But again, we have no idea why just yet. And so right now, he's just draining energy away from Wonder Woman. Now, for Clark, he hates the idea of seeing somebody he may still love, but also a team member as well, being hurt like this. And so he's trying his best to save her. Unfortunately, this is a Superman who's not back to full strength yet. He's still mostly depowered. He's having a hard time fighting against the power suit that right now has Diana trapped inside. And so she's begging and begging him to just go away, stay away until he is able to find a way to actually stop it. Unfortunately, he does not, and unfortunately, he cannot stop it. And so he gets taken out very easily. But then you have the armor suit try to crush his body, basically killing him off. And you have Diana cry out and say, please stop. And he does. Now, this is where we kind of find out what he's been trying to do, Mr. Ben. The reason why he has been going around kidnapping different energy-based characters. And we kind of find out that his main goal is take all their energy and then transfer that energy into his actual body to change his body into something more powerful so that he'll be able to take on his father and then kill off his father. And so he built a suit that's going to help change his body so that his body will be able to absorb all the different kind of energy from the different energy based characters. Now, when it comes to Firestorm is also being used in the process to kind of help transfer that energy over to him in a more proper way so that he will not be killed off so easily when it comes to the transfer of the energy. And so he's doing it right now. He goes into his new armor suit and begins the whole process. And so now it seems like this could be the end for Diana and Clark, but also Vandal Savage if Homeboy's able to pull this off. And so you then have Diana give one final speech to help wake up Clark Kent because he's been knocked out thanks to fighting against the power suit that was holding on to Diana. And so once she's able to give one final speech, Homeboy does wake up. When he does wake up, he realized he got some work to do, which is stopping Mr. Ben from actually becoming some powerful being. And so that is when we see Clark Kent grab Parasite. Now, the reason why he does grab Parasite is because he realized that Parasite absorbed a lot of energy. Because remember, earlier when it came to Parasite, he was fighting against the different energy-based characters alongside with Clark and Diana. Now, he did that for two different reasons. One, because when it comes to Parasite, his main thing is that he has to constantly feed on energy. He has that endless hunger for energy. But two, because he was helping out Superman and Wonder Woman. Either way, when it comes to Parasite, he's full of energy to the point where Homeboy is just laying on the ground like he's right now in some kind of food coma. But you have Clark grab him and take him near Mr. Ben. And the reason why, because Clark realized when it comes to Mr. Ben's power suit, it is slowly processing the energy over into Mr. Ben's body. Transferring the energy over into Mr. Ben's body. I don't know why I say processing. Well, same thing. Either way, when it comes to that energy, it's slowly being moved over into the body of Mr. Ben. But you have Clark say, what if I'm able to overload the actual system? Well, Parasite is full of energy. This is the best time to actually do it. And so you have Clark just throw Parasite right into the actual suit that Mr. Ben is trying to do. But here's the thing, the suit cannot handle all that energy at once. And so it does begin to overload to the point where it's doing its own kind of like energy explosion. All this different kind of energy just flying out left and right, blowing up the actual base of Mr. Ben. And so it's up to Clark and Diana to get everyone out of there before they all die in that actual base. Now, you did have Clark and Diana discuss the idea of go ahead and taking the different characters back to their different prisons across the world, but also to give Firestorm some kind of help because apparently Homeboy was kidnapped and used for this crazy experiment. Either way, it does lead into one big question. And that question is Diana and Clark officially over? Are they officially broken up? But apparently they do not want to talk about that at all at the moment. Matter of fact, they want to go ahead and handle the idea of taking these different prisoners back to their actual prisons. And so you have Clark and Diana both agree to talk later, but it seems like, yeah, they are officially broken up. And so to wrap up today's video, we jump over to Mr. Ben. Now some time has passed by and we see him currently right now in his prison cell. Now with that being said, he is confronted by his father, Vandal Savage. Now when it comes to Vandal Savage, he's very upset with his son because again, all he wanted his son to do was just have some patience, wait a tad bit longer, and then his master plan could have came together. But unfortunately now, Vandal Savage has to move on without his son. But again, the main reason why when it came to Ben doing what he did is because he wanted to prove to his father that he is not just a little boy anymore, that he is a grown man that is able to do a whole lot more than what his father has been giving him to do. Either way, Vandal Savage is very upset with his son. That matter of fact, he kills him off right there in that cell and disappears. And so we're left to believe that Mr. Ben is officially, well, dead.